Hello, nerds! Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your week in Nerdom. We have a gigantic show for you this week. Star Wars Episode 10, Twilight Zone on CBS, Rocket League on the Nintendo Switch. We've got some heavy metal news if you're a streaming music listener. So much. Westworld Season 2, all of the things. Before I start forgetting stuff, let's hit that music.
Generally Nerdy.
Alright guys, so no real news about the news, just news, or no real news about the channel rather, just news about the news, so let's just jump right into video game news. I'm going to hold off on the really juicy stuff for video games until the end of the segment, just to keep you guys around that much longer. So first things first, the Planet of the Apes game that we were talking about a couple weeks ago, or last week I think, a couple weeks ago, I can't remember, that Andy Serkis's company, Imaginarium, is doing, it is going to be $20, and it's coming out November 21st on the PS4. No PC or Xbox One launch date has been announced, but it is going to be cheap, and it is, right, yeah, $20 US dollars. It is going to be nice and cheap, so it's worth checking out just because it's cheap, and it's tied into, say what you will about the original Planet of the Apes, I really dig this new Planet of the Apes. I really like what they've done with how it became the Planet of the Apes, instead of just, oh, you damn dirty apes. So yeah, so it's directly tied into that movie franchise. It looks really good. It's a cinematic adventure, so I would imagine it's mostly you're just watching things happen, and then you have to time button press and things like that, and not really, it's not a traditional video game in the sense of you have to run, jump, and climb trees and whatever. So that's coming out November 21st, so it's coming out real soon. So next we have the League of Legends Champions. For those of you that didn't watch, it was a heck of a battle, man. There was so much stuff. It was really one-sided, actually. It was just really fun to watch Samsung Galaxy rock SK Telecom, and like rock SK Telecom. There was like, I don't know, it went 3-0, 3-1. No, it was 3-0. SK Telecom did not take a single round, and it's best out of 5. So yeah, there is definitely some fantastic gaming to watch with the World Champions. I will include a link in the description because that was amazing. Next up, we have Rocket League on the Nintendo Switch. Also going to be $20, and it launches, November 14th. I have very limited exposure to this game, but it's a whole lot of fun, and now I don't know if the Switch servers will interact with the PC and the PlayStation and Xbox servers. I feel like that would be awesome if they could do that, but I don't know how likely that is. But yeah, so in like a week, so by the time you're watching this, potentially it will be I don't take that long. It only takes me like 4 days to get these posted. And if you're a patron, you get to watch them as soon as they're posted. If you are a non-patron, you get to watch them about 3 or 4 days later. So definitely go hit up the Patreon if you want to catch all of the news immediately after it's happened instead of waiting about a week. So Rocket League on Nintendo Switch, and then the big bad news is, it's not bad news, but it's the E-League Injustice 2 champions Wow. So this was Group B, and it was on Friday, just a couple days ago. I filmed these on Sunday, so it was 2 days ago, and it was not as shocking as seeing Sonic Fox lose twice, but it was good, solid Injustice play. I don't know what else to tell you. There's a couple of fantastic matches. The final match between Foxy Grandpa and Hayate was the only match that went the full 5 matches. The only team matchup that went the full 5 matches, and I did not know who was going to take it. Foxy Grandpa is the one who took it in the end, but it looked like Hayate was really giving him a run for his money. And he definitely was, even though it was Robin. So here's my thing with competitive fighting games. So when you're playing competitively, you learn, and sometimes to a fault, you learn how to deconstruct the other person's play. I noticed very much, it's much more in Group B than last week with Group A. Most of these guys, there was I think two matchups where one of the contenders switched up their character, but for the most part everyone stuck to their main, to their primary go-to character. And the way these games are structured, like, I don't understand why a professional doesn't have a main and then a secondary and even a tertiary character that because there are, like, Sub-Zero is going to be weaker against Batman because Batman has a lot of really quick movement that goes for some fairly high damage considering how fast he is. So if somebody chooses Batman, you probably wouldn't want to be Sub-Zero. If Sub-Zero was your main, you should probably then switch to Deadshot or something along those lines. And likewise with Batman, although I haven't really seen who's the antithesis to Batman, really, because it seems like Batman is the most OP of the lot. But still, the point being, there are certain characters that do much better against other certain characters because they play them with an even stat, right? So they're vanilla characters as far as their stats go in competition. So this character can one-up this character just because they have the moveset. So if this character is your main, then why wouldn't you choose somebody else that can one-up their main? And then, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me that everyone was sticking to their one main. Anyway, it was fantastic. I'm going to leave a link to the full 5-hour session. That is the entire Twitch stream, including the TBS broadcast, because that was also some incredible gaming. So that is all we have for video games. We are now moving into movies. Movie news, there's a fair amount. There's some really interesting stuff going on. First off, when we got the first Pacific Rim, there was, apparently it was a rumor. I thought it was fact, but I have since learned it is a rumor that, and this was only recently confirmed. Where did it go? Recently confirmed to Cinema Blend within the last week. The Legendary crossover event. So Legendary Pictures, the people that are in charge of, like, the King Kong movie, and also Pacific Rim, and then Godzilla, and all of these big, awesome movies. Well, awesome is kind of a debatable term, but all of these big blockbuster monster movies, it was reported that they were going to eventually build to a crossover event where we were going to get the Jaegers fighting Godzilla and King Kong, and then Godzilla and King Kong fighting each other. So that was going to be like this big legendary universe, and because that's the way of things anymore, right? Is everyone has their own cinematic universe. There's the monster universe that they were trying to build that doesn't look like it's really going to go anywhere at this point. And then this one, and then all of the comic book stuff and Star Wars and so on. So, like, that's the trend, right? So Legendary has these fantastic monster Legendary has these fantastic monster properties that would do so well mixed, and they're not going to mix them. The producers for the Pacific Rim movies are saying that they have something cooler in mind, but what could be cooler than Jaegers fighting King Ghidorah or Mothra with the help of Godzilla and maybe King Kong, or the Jaegers fighting Godzilla and or King Kong? Just all of that is so cool, and now it's not going to happen. But they've got something better. I don't buy that, but we'll see. Moving into Disney. So, I don't know if you know this, but the reason Disney does their re-release once every 10, 15, whatever years, not only is to update the technology, update the media on which their movies are released, because that's legit, but the other monetary reason that they do that, well, there's two monetary reasons. Is one, if they make them scarce, then they can charge more for them, and two is the rights. So if they don't do something with an intellectual property within a certain time frame, eventually it goes to public domain, and then anyone can do anything with it because it's public. So in order to put that off for a little while, they re-release it in a new format with new features or with new whatever and crystal clear imagery and all these things. So now that the technology, the viewing technology isn't the thing that's updating as fast, but the creation technology is updating, Disney has started to remake their movies with live action. I say it with quotes because it's mostly CGI, so it's not really 100% live action. But I don't know. I didn't see the Aladdin casting, so I don't know where that stands right now. But they have announced the entire Lion King casting. So let's go over this real quick. Donald Glover will be Donald Glover, the dude who should be the next Spider-Man, assuming they do an ultimate Spider-Man, which would be awesome. Anyway, Donald Glover, who was in Homecoming, and in so much more, and if you don't know who he is, Google him, because he's going to be the guy in charge of the Deadpool cartoon, and so much awesome nerd cred. Donald Glover, back to where we are, is going to be the adult Simba. And then, hold your freaking breath, Beyonce is going to be adult Nala. Wow, that's a lot of star power in those two names alone. But we're not done. James Earl Jones is going to be Mufasa, so he's reprising his role as Mufasa. Also the voice of Darth Vader, so nerd cred. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who was the villain in Serenity, so again, super nerd cred, is going to be Scar, which is awesome. I really, really dig his voice. He's got a fantastic delivery. He's got this really calm, smooth voice that will just go super well with Scar. Alfre Woodard, I don't know who that is, but he's going to be Sarabi. J.D. McCrary is going to be young Simba. Shahadi Wright Joseph is going to be young Nala. I don't know any of those guys. Oh, Alfre Woodard is not a guy, it's a woman. It's Simba's mom. She was in Luke Cage. And then John Canny, who was in Captain America Civil War, is going to be Rafiki. John Oliver, as in The Daily Show and now Last Week Tonight, John Oliver, is going to be Zazu. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner are going to be Timon and Pumbaa. Billy Eichner is Timon, Seth Rogen is Pumbaa. Billy Eichner, if you don't know, is on American Horror Story right now. He does a show called Billy on the Street. I think that's just on YouTube. Florence Kasumba will be Shenzi, one of the hyenas. Eric Andre will be Azizi, one of the hyenas. And Keegan-Michael Key will be Kamari, the third hyena. Directed by Jon Favreau, produced by basically everybody who produced the animated movie and a couple others. And that's just a lot of awesome on one screen. And then, Deathstroke. So, with the influx nature, with the kind of, is it going to happen the way everybody thinks it's going to happen kind of thing going on with the Batman movie, the Ben Affleck Batman movie, because at one point they were saying it's not even going to be part of the DC Extended Universe. It's just going to be its own thing, like that Joker movie we're trying to make. And then it was like, no, we misspoke. It is going to be part of the DC Extended Universe. So, I don't know. With that kind of fluctuation, there's too much in the air right now with Batman. It was rumored that Joe Manganiello, who was supposed to be Deathstroke in that Batman movie, like 7 scripts ago, because that Batman movie possibly won't have Deathstroke in it, they're going to make a Deathstroke movie. And apparently Manganiello's still going to be Deathstroke. The director that's coming in is Gareth Evans, who, I know the name, did the Raid movies. I never saw them. All I know about Raid is it kills bugs. But, so he's coming in to direct. Manganiello's still going to be Deathstroke, and I'm pretty excited about that, because the Raid movies were apparently really great action flicks. And it doesn't matter if Deathstroke kills people in his movie, because that's what Deathstroke does. So, you can't go wrong if he's killing folk. Anyway, I don't know how that's going to work out. Are they going to make Deathstroke like an anti-hero? Because he's definitely just a freaking villain. Like, yeah, sure, he's in the Suicide Squad, but everyone in the Suicide Squad is a villain by nature, and they're only in the Suicide Squad because they got tricked. And I don't know, I'm interested to see how they're going to try and work it out. I just don't know how they're going to work it out. Anyway, moving on, because we got a lot of stuff to do. So, Shazam, the movie with Zachary Levi, and we still don't know who the kid's going to be. We have a potential villain, Mark Strong from The Kingsman is going to be, where is it? Dr. Sivana. Potentially. So, Dr. Sivana is who they're looking to do for the villain for Shazam. So they're talking to Mark Strong to do it. He's also in Arrow, and that's coming along nicely. I'm really interested to see Zachary Levi as a superhero. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how they're gonna pull that off, but he's a pretty decent actor, so I don't know, maybe that's gonna work out. Next up is Black Adam. Adam Steichel, some Slavic name, who is a writer on the Undateable show, got brought in to write the screenplay for Black Adam, the first draft at least, the first version of the screenplay for Black Adam. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is going to be a producer on the show, and also this same Adam character is a writer on another movie that The Rock is producing and is going to star in, called Rampage. And if you don't know what Rampage is, you didn't play arcades in the early 90s / in the 80s. Rampage is a arcade game where you climb up buildings and destroy them and eat people, and you're battling with 3 other monsters who are also climbing up buildings and destroying them and hitting helicopters and all these things. How are you going to make that into a movie? That is going to be such a bad movie. The Battleship movie is coming to mind, and nobody wants to remember that. So that's also something these two, Adam and The Rock, are connected to. I just hope Black Adam's good. I'm probably not going to watch Rampage, but I just hope Black Adam's good. Moving right along, we got to keep the show going. X-23, yes, the clone of Logan, the little girl, is getting her own spin-off movie. Maybe. It would appear that James Mangold, the director of Logan, has been talking to THR, and he said, and I quote, "We're just working on a script." With the success of Wonder Woman and studios being less afraid to put a woman in the starring role as a superhero, and with the success of the movie Logan, which should be enough in and of itself to justify this movie, they are turning X-23 into its own movie. Like they said, the script is being worked on. There is no final script. There is no casting, but it's going to happen. And anything Logan, anything Wolverine-wise, is okay by me. So, are they going to go the all-new Wolverine storyline? Who knows? But it's going to be an interesting journey, to say the least. Moving on. So, I didn't anticipate. I usually just talk about, like, comic book movies or super nerdy movies like that. This kind of falls into that because it's a little sci-fi. So, it's a movie called BIOS. B-I-O-S, BIOS. Starring Tom Hanks in a post-apocalyptic world where he's trying to teach a robot how to take care of his dog, because Tom Hanks is the last living human on Earth. And so he has to teach this robot how to take care of his dog, and after he dies, I guess he's getting on in age. The reason, and that's all I know about this, and the reason I wanted to talk about this week is because, well, one, there's a weird parallel you can make between this movie and, what was the movie where he's on the island? Survivor? That's not right. Whatever. So the movie where he's the FedEx guy and he crash lands and he's living on the island. Really wish I could remember the name of that movie. But there's that weird parallel you can make between these two things, because he was the only guy on the island. He was talking to a volleyball named Wilson. In this movie, he's the only guy in the world, and he's talking to a robot to take care of his dog. But this is also another opportunity to further the conversation about artificial intelligence and treating things viewed as non-human as human. So in this case, it would be the robot who is going to take care of his dog. He's viewing as human, so he's trying to get it to take care of his dog. That's just a really interesting take on artificial intelligence. It's a little Matrixy even, because the assumption is if there's a robot to take care of his dog, then there's a lot of other robots living on this earth, in this post-apocalyptic earth, that are intelligent, are quasi-sentient, if nothing else. So I'm really excited to watch this movie progress and see where it goes and see how it treats artificial intelligence and the line between artificial and actual. So yeah, the movie's BIOS. Tom Hanks is going to be in it. Let's see what happens. And that is the end of movies. We gotta keep it going at a good pace. We're going right into television. Television news. For those of you that don't know, the Sci-Fi Channel, or Sci-Fi, if you want to be a jerk, because that's how they spelled it. Anyway, the Sci-Fi Channel is doing a show called Krypton that is going to be 2 generations before Kal-El is born. So before Superman, this is effectively the last years of Krypton. It focuses on his grandpa, the House of El, Seg-El. Yeah, Seg-El is Kal-El's grandpa, focuses on that. It's underway. We are looking at 2018 premiere, so probably fall 2018, I believe. And they just cast Brainiac. So Brainiac is like one of the ultimate Superman villains, and they just cast him. It's going to be Blake Ritson, who was on Da Vinci's Demons, which was actually a pretty interesting show. It was a Showtime show, so there was a bigger budget, which also means there's a bigger gamble. It only went, I think, 2 seasons, but it's worth a watch if you ever come across some episodes. Definitely check it out. But this guy, it's no longer on, so he needed a job, and they came and said, Krypton, you interested? And it was a definitely, yeah, sure, that sounds like fantastic fun. So we have a Brainiac. Who else is cast? Paula Malcolmson is going to be Charis, who is Superman's great-grandmother, so Segal's mother, and she's trying to keep the House of El in line, and apparently there is a pilot somewhere that exists, and she is not Charis. Charis is played by a different actress, so I'm gonna have to go find that pilot. Rest of the cast includes Georgina Campbell, Elliot Cowan, Anne Ogobomo, Rasmus Hardiker, Wallace Day, Aaron Pierre, and Ian McKelleney. So when initially they announced this, I was super not stoked about it. Occasionally they have something brilliant, like Caprica was surprisingly awesome, or the movie. It's the movie. It was the show. The show it was a prequel to, which is Battlestar Galactica, was also fabulous. Warehouse 13 has a big fan base, but if you really pay attention, it's not that great. Eureka is okay. It's a little cheese ball. It's kind of kitschy, but that one's not a bad show by any means necessarily. But so considering that sci-fi has been around for so long, and considering that there is so much on there now, and we listed 4 shows that are good on that channel, it doesn't bode well for Krypton. This is the same channel that gave us Sharknado and Zombievers and just these really cheesy. I know they're cheesy on purpose, but I can't be super excited about something that's coming on this channel until I've seen a couple episodes and it's verified that it's really good, because there is definitely the potential that it could be really good. So don't hold your breath. I don't think it's going to be at all one of the better things for Superman. It might be better than Man of Steel, but that's not saying a whole. Okay, so we are interrupting your regularly scheduled Week in Nerdom for this little supplementary bit. This week's episode of The Walking Dead. Not a whole lot further in plot line. Just a lot more killing. Eric was the name of the boyfriend, and he died this week. Pretty intense, that bit. We do learn that there's a mole in Rick's camp. So somebody from Alexandria or the Kingdom or the Hilltop is feeding information to the Saviors and or directly to Negan. So, I mean, that's good. I mean, good not for Rick's crew, but good as far as it's making for good programming, and we get to see a lot of really interesting interactions between these two camps. Fantastic episode, man. If you missed it, you are missing out. Now, I was watching something ridiculous this morning because daytime television is ridiculous. Apparently, Wonder Woman has been voted best comic book movie ever. I didn't quite catch what the criteria was for that or what. Let's get into this just for a minute. Wonder Woman was good. Wonder Woman was good for multiple reasons. Not just good because it was a moderately well executed movie, but it's also good because in the social standing of things, it represents something that is new effectively to this industry, and that's a female director, a very successful female director. She did a good job. We don't see that a lot, and that is one form of misrepresentation that I personally feel is legitimate. There are less females being represented at the higher levels of movie making. So it's good in that way. And it's only good as a movie. It was not great as a movie. There will not be any Oscars won off of that movie. The writing was mediocre. The acting... Gal Gadot can't do any other accent besides her natural accent, so therefore all of the Amazons had to do the same accent as Gal, which is what it is, I guess. There's just a lot about that movie that just wasn't great. The special effects, there was too much CGI. We could go on and on about all of the missteps that they had. That being said, it was still entertaining. It was still something that was worth watching. Best comic book movie ever? No. Best DC comic book movie in the last 20 years? Yeah, sure, easy. I mean, no one's going to debate that. I take that back. Some people will debate that because some people think Man of Steel is a great movie. There are even a few who think Batman vs. Superman was a great movie. So, but not even the best. I take that back. Not even the best DC movie in the last 20 years. Not even the best DC movie in the last 10 years, because the Dark Knight trilogy has come out in the last 10 years. There will never be, and also The Watchmen. Watchmen was a better movie than this. There will never be I can't say never. There is less likely to be a DC movie or a comic book movie in general that is better than The Dark Knight. It's gonna be, that is the bar. And even the best stuff that we're getting from Marvel movies is not met that bar. Logan got really close. Logan was great. Civil War got very close. Civil War was great. Dark Knight is awesome. Wonder Woman was good. So I'll probably try and stick a link to whatever that was that decided Wonder Woman was the best comic book movie ever in the description down below. Do a little bit more research. I just had to get this done so I could get it into this week's video before it was all edited and posted. So, yeah, that was a weird thing to hear on the television this morning. Anyway, all of that being said, keep watching Walking Dead. Keep watching your Week in Nerdom because I'm doing all the things. Also, if you've been noticing, I've got almost everything up I said I was going to get up. Took me a couple days longer to do it, but we now have the last of the interviews from Starfest. The cosplay video is up from Starfest. It's only on Patreon for patrons at the moment, but it will be up for regular viewers in a few days. The only thing I have left from Starfest is my panel that I did by myself, and then we're moving on to Denver Comic-Con and Salt Lake Comic-Con. The only stuff I really have to post from that is cosplay stuff. So, yeah, moving along, getting the things done. I'm almost done with the next episode of Weekend Nerdom. I'm almost done with the next episode of Adventures in Photography as well. So, I'm doing all the things. This week's Weekend Nerdom might be a little a day late or so because I'm doing all the things, but I should definitely, for you non-patrons, I'm going to put it up at the regular time, and for patrons, it'll just be a day late. So, that being said, we now return you to your regularly scheduled Week in Nerddom. We've got to get rolling. Twilight Zone. Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. Yes, the one and only Twilight Zone that has spawned a bunch of imitations is coming back to television-ish. Not really television directly, not the actual thing that's sitting in your living room that you watch, but it'll be on a streaming device. So potentially on your TV in your living room, if you stream things on a smart TV. It's coming to CBS, the same CBS Direct that brings us Star Trek Discovery. We are getting a reboot of the Twilight Zone, which in and of itself is fantastic. And then they just announced, where is it? Jordan Peele, as in Key and Peele, as in fantastic comedy writer, as in fantastic comedy director, mediocre drama director. This is going based on the one serious thing I've seen him do, which was Get Out, which, yeah, I hate getting political, but like that whole movie was one big political statement, right? It didn't work on a horror level. It definitely worked as a confusing movie, but it wasn't scary. There was no, I didn't feel any sense of suspense. It was just kind of drawn out and a little transparent and kind of ridiculous. So they're approaching him. There's been no contract signed or anything like that, but they're approaching him to be the executive producer, i.e. the showrunner for this movie. I did really, really appreciate the Twilight Zone feeling of Get Out. That definitely felt like an extended episode of the Twilight Zone. I just felt like the execution needed a little work. So if he's just the showrunner and we've got other directors and other producers behind him saying, well, why don't we do this and kind of make it work this way and so on and so forth, then maybe we'll get a quality product. Because I love the Twilight Zone. I love the black and white movie. I love the original series. I love the two color movies that have come out. Just fantastic stuff. I really dig the psychological element of the Twilight Zone, and that was the one thing about Get Out that I really liked. So maybe it is a really good combination, Jordan Peele and the Twilight Zone, but that is to be determined once it comes out. Definitely keep your eyes right here to your Week in Nerddom, and we will continue this discussion as it progresses. Next on TV news, we have some Westworld Season 2 updates. Season 2 is filming. Season 2 is in production now. What's his name? His name is Ben Barnes, who was the Man in Black's buddy in the flashback parts of the storyline. He's the guy that got I can't think of the character's name now, who eventually became the Man in Black. He's the guy that brought him to the park for the first time when he originally fell in love with Dolores. So he has said that he can confirm that he's been to set at least once, which is a really ridiculous way. I mean, I know Jonathan Nolan is super tight, closed set, and nobody can talk about it, which is fantastic, and I really, really love that. I really love the element of surprise. I really feel silly that it took me longer than it took most YouTubers or people who even watched the season 1 to figure out the big secret with season 1. I was going in a completely different direction. But I really appreciate the secrecy, and we're gonna make every episode count. I really like that. So this, what's his name again? Ben Barnes, him not telling people that he's for sure in this season, because they can do a single flashback towards the beginning of the season, and Ben Barnes will have been on screen once, and then he won't be a liar. This just gets my mind going about season 2, and what are they going to do? Is the park underwater, like the film theorist theorized? Because that would be really interesting, and he's got a lot of evidence that kind of says that might be the case, and I'll put a link to that video too, because Film Theorist is kind of brilliant when he's coming to that conclusion. Anyway, Westworld Season 2, definitely going to be another bilateral storytelling, where we're telling one story that's years in the past, then one story that is the present. I really dig Jonathan Nolan and the things that he does on that show. But we are holding too long. We are looking at Titans next. Oh yeah. So the Flying Graysons apparently are going to be part of at least a couple episodes of the Titans show, because it was leaked, the casting video of, I can't remember the actor's name because I take bad notes. We know this. I take bad notes. I'm sorry. So, Flying Graysons, they're keeping it really hush hush. Like, it took some deciphering to get the information. I'm not the one that did the deciphering. I'm just reporting on it once I read about it. So we do have a Robin. There's going to be a Nightwing and a Robin? Or maybe, I don't know. No, because I guess Nightwing is Dick Grayson. I'm dumb. So the Flying Graysons are going to be in it. That means he starts off as Robin. That's where I was going with it. He's going to start off as Robin and not starting off as Nightwing. And then there's going to be a transition in the Nightwing, it would seem. So that's kind of cool. I really dig that. How they're going to broach him being Robin and then being Nightwing, and how that relates to Batman, because I don't know that they have the rights to put Batman on the show. Although there's Superman on the Supergirl show, so maybe they're going to put Batman. Wow, that's really awesome. Maybe there's going to be some Batman on this Titans show, and it just got that much better. Wow, that's really awesome to think about. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't follow that train of thought all the way through when I was doing this research until just now. Yeah, Titans is shaping up to potentially be one of the better DC TV shows. I'm not gonna lie, and that's just based on casting. There's been no production stills. There's been no leaked scripts. Nothing. That's just strictly based on casting, and then the projection off of that casting, what that might imply. So, if that doesn't happen, it still could be really good. It just won't be as good as it could have been, because Batman is the best superhero ever. Even though he's not a superhero, he's just a guy with a lot of money. Anyway, moving on. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the next TV series based on the Heroes in a Half Shell. They just announced their list of voice actors, and it's a list of people who have never done... I mean, they've done voice acting before. There's actually... the dude who's playing Splinter has done a lot of voice acting before. But... they're all young, so they're all relatively new when you compare them to Rob Paulsen, who's done voice on 2 different casts of Ninja Turtles. Rob Paulsen's been doing it since before I was born, man. He's been doing animation stuff since forever. So it's really interesting that they went with such a young cast, which makes sense because then you don't have a bunch of old guys doing young kid voices, which is kind of what a lot of them do. Anyway, the casting, and I'll let you know, everyone. The casting is Omar Miller is going to be Raphael. Omar Miller is the big dude on 8 Mile. He was also in Get Rich or Die Trying. He's done a lot of TV work, a lot of the Law and Order and stuff like that. Ben Schwartz is going to be Leonardo. Ben Schwartz was in The Interview, but probably everybody knows him from being Jean Ralphio Saperstein from Parks and Rec. He also is the voice of Dewey in the new DuckTales, which is kind of badass. Josh Brenner is going to be Donatello. Josh Brenner is Dale on The Big Bang Theory and Nelson Bigetti on Silicon Valley. Brandon McHale Smith is going to be Michelangelo. Brandon McHale Smith is in Dirty Grandpa, One Big Happy, and Get On Up. He was freaking Little Richard in Get On Up, so he's got some acting chops for sure. Doodly-doo. And then Kat Graham is going to be April O'Neil. She was Bonnie Bennett in The Vampire Diaries. She was also in Malcolm in the Middle. She's younger, so I think she was like one of Malcolm's friends. And then Splinter to round out the good guy cast. Don't know who Shredder is going to be, if Shredder is even going to be the primary protagonist, because he's not always been the primary protagonist through each of the castings. I think he was only the primary protagonist in like 2 of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Talk about that in the description or in the comments down low. But Eric Bauza is going to be Splinter. Eric Bauza was a bunch of voices in Adventure Time, primarily Tromo and the Bear. He was Stimpy in the reboot of Ren and Stimpy, the adult reboot of Ren and Stimpy. He was also Customs Alien in Rick and Morty. Like, seriously, the dude's voiceover list is as long as my arm. So he's been doing this for a little while. But yeah, that is everything in television. Next, we are moving it right along into comic books. There is Batman coming out my ears. Dark Knight's Metal, the big event that's going on right now. In issue number 4, we are going to get to see Superman. Now, I know that's not really news because he's been in the last couple issues, but since we have the evil Batman, we are going to get a grouping of Supermen. Now, are they going to be evil Supermen? We don't know. The only thing we know is that Scott Snyder hit Twitter with a penciled drawing about the next issue, and we see 3 different versions of Superman holding what appears to be a very old or withered or weak somehow Batman, and they're very different. Like, this isn't like Steel and Superboy and all of those different Battle of the Supermen that came after Superman died back in the 90s. This isn't those Supermen. This is a different lot of Supermen. So it is either Supermen that have been fighting these evil Batmen in the dark multiverse, or it is Superman from the regular multiverse just coming to help out Earth Prime Superman. Or, potentially, they're all evil Supermen, and they just look like they're Boy Scouts, also from the Dark Multiverse. We don't really know, but like I've said before, I really dig alternate takes on superheroes, so I'm really excited to read about it. Alright, so that's one bit of Batman, kind of. And issue 4 will be December 20th, so we've got a little while to go. In regular Batman canon, Catwoman has said yes, so now Batman and Catwoman are engaged, which is a really weird thing to say. In the next issue, what is it, number 35, Batman 35, Catwoman and Talia al Ghul are fighting. So, Yeah, I don't know. It's freaking comic books, but I don't know why they had to go see Talia. Like, Talia's off in a desert somewhere. Why did Batman and Catwoman have to go see Talia? Whatever. She said yes, and like I said, I hope she did, and she did. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah. So back into Dark Knight's Metal, we have all of the one-offs for the evil Batman, except for the Batman Who Laughs. So let's take to the comments section. Let's talk about which of those evil Batman you guys like the most. Which one do you think? I mean, obviously, my choice is going to be the Batman Who Laughs because I'm a big Joker freak. But being as they're all like antitheses to the Justice League heroes and their evil versions of Batman and someone from the Justice League, which one is the most effective? Is it Devastator? Is it the oh, I can't even think of their names now. The Flash Batman? Is it the Wonder Woman Batman? The Drowned? Is it? Let me know which one is your favorite in those comments before Batman Who Laughs comes out, because my money's on Batman Who Laughs. The other Batman White Knight. So, moving into number 2 on Batman White Knight. Why did I want to talk about this? Oh, because Joker proposed to Harley Quinn. So in the primary universe, Batman and Catwoman are getting married. In this weird alternate version, Joker and Harley are getting married because they're like regular, healthy people, and it's really interesting. So that's kind of a cool parallel between these two different Earths. One last DC thing, we're talking Doomsday Clock, which still has not come out yet, but it starts on the 22nd. Yes, starts on the 22nd, so we are going to get some fantastic, or if your local comic book shop might be doing an early release, so stay up late on the 21st and you'll get it before everyone, but it's going to take a couple days to process what's going on in issue number 1 of Doomsday Clock. Anyway, Doomsday Clock, we are getting Rorschach, who was evaporated at the end of The Watchmen. So how do we have a Rorschach in Doomsday Clock? What's going on there? Let's do some projections down in those comments below, because Rorschach is my favorite character. I mean, as a lot of people's favorite character in the Watchmen show. So what is Rorschach doing alive, and how do we get more of it? So that's it for DC stuff. Now we're there's one non-big house, and it's the Assassin's Creed Origins comic book. Is January 3rd is when it's coming out. Ryder and Tool. I think we've already gone over this, but there's like artwork and stuff for this now. And Tool is an Egyptologist and a video game writer. She's on the writing team for the new Assassin's Creed Origins game. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because Assassin's Creed, the games traditionally, your protagonist, the main character that you play as, has always been a guy. The comics that we're getting, that's coming out on the 3rd, the protagonist appears from the previews, appears to be a woman. So that's kind of a change of pace. And again, it takes place in Egypt, so you don't have to worry about the European issues with treating women inferior, because in in Egypt specifically, women were not necessarily inferior. So that's really interesting way to play this, and definitely going to keep our eyes to that in the upcoming weeks. And then one bit of Marvel news. We've got Vader number 7 came out this week. Super strong showing for Vader. This series is easily the best thing Marvel is doing Star Wars wise right now. I don't know. Read it. It's brilliant. And that kills it for comic books. We have already done video games. We have already done television. We are moving finally into our last section, and it is music. In music news, we got an interview. We got an interview with Scott Kelly from Neurosis, one of the vocalists and guitar players from Neurosis, talking about Phil Anselmo. So, the interview was with exclaim.ca is the website, and then the show was Aggressive Tendencies. So this happened within the last week. Scott Kelly was on this show, and they were talking, and they asked him about Phil Anselmo and the whole debacle with Phil on stage, where he does the Sieg Heil, and then says something about white supremacy. This happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Why? Why? I mean, okay, so the heavy and aggressive world of music, side of music that Neurosis belongs to, there is a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of really crap bands that I don't care to talk about, but there is always a lot of stuff going on. And with a band like Neurosis, there's always a lot to talk about. There's a lot because they have such a unique sound, because they approach songwriting in such a different way, because their production value is all done in-house. Everything, there's so much to talk about with a guy like Scott Kelly. Why bother unless you're trying to push an agenda? And as much as I don't really like Phil Anselmo, like, I really love Pantera, I really like most of the music Phil makes. I just think Phil as a person is kind of a douchebag. So they're talking to him about what he thought about the white supremacy thing, and it's like, it's done and over with, and Phil has moved on with his life. Why can't the rest of the music world do the same? It's just sad, and they're just, I don't know. Whatever. It got us talking about him, so maybe it worked. Whatever it was. Seven Dust is doing a new album. For anyone who doesn't know, Seven Dust was one of the better nu metal bands, kind of better as far as the clump in the middle, all the mediocre bands. They were kind of on the top of that clump. They're putting out a new record. I dig them. I didn't know they were still together, I'm not going to lie. So this is going to be the follow-up. Apparently they put out another record in 2015 called Kill the Flaw that had some pretty decent reviews. I didn't realize it was a thing, so I didn't know about that until I was doing the research for this. So, definitely going to keep an eye on that, just because I'm interested to hear new stuff from Seven Dust. Moving now into some Beatles news. So now that there's only 2 living Beatles, and apparently they're hard up for money, they're boxing up all of their Christmas stuff into one box set and releasing that this year for Christmas. And they announced it just in time for everyone to put it on their Christmas list. Yeah. I love the Beatles, but I don't know. I feel like Paul McCartney and Ringo and the estates of George and John just, like, do you really need the money? Can't we just, I don't know. Anyway, they're remastering Sgt. Pepper, because this is the anniversary for Sgt. Pepper. That's cool. I can get behind a remaster. I can get behind a box set if it's a remastered box set. It feels like this box set is just pandering for the sake of, we want to make some Christmas money. But yeah, so that's, I once really respected the Beatles. I still do, but this just kind of takes a little chip out of that. Anyway, the last bit of news for this week's Week in Nerdom is about a service called Gimme Radio. Now, Gimme Radio. Let's read, shall we? There's statistics at the beginning of this. This is interesting. So it seems that hip hop and R&B, rap and things, are the most consumed genres in America, in the U.S. And I mean, country's right up there as well, because country's huge. But the most consumed genres are hip hop in U.S. according to sales. However, a Spotify analysis last year revealed that the genre with the highest global loyalty is metal. So, it's measured by the number of streams divided by the number of listeners per artist. It eclipsed hip-hop by nearly 50%. In the U.S. specifically, metal, emo, and punk had way more listeners than hip-hop, pop, country, and EDM. So, it stands to wonder why it's not talked about more. If it's the world's most popular genre, the world's most consumed genre, according to internet statistics. I mean, it's a reliable source, but it's still internet statistics. Why is it still looked at with this like shroud of mystery, and everybody thinks it's evil and all of this really ridiculous crap? It's obvious that metal is popular even in our the things that you see daily, because pop artists are starting to take over metal imagery. I remember driving on the freeway seeing an ad for a Justin Bieber concert where he has like the Spinal Tap font on his name, and right next to a Metallica. It was on the side of Mile High, and that's where Metallica was playing, and Guns N' Roses. So it was really interesting to see that. But like Lady Gaga, Kanye West, all these other pop artists are using this metal imagery, but it's still, I don't know, I don't understand the disconnect. We all listen to it, but we don't want to talk about it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, for you closet metalheads, we have a new streaming app that has been backed by Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, Dave Mustaine, Decibel Magazine Editor-in-Chief Albert, I can't say that last name, Mudrian, Eagles of Death Metal touring player Dave Catching, Nuclear Blast Records, Metal Blade Records. All of these big names in the genre are getting behind this Gimme Radio app. And it's really interesting because they have so it's kind of radio where there's like DJs, but the DJs are, when they're live, they're interacting. There's a chat feed in the app, so you can interact with everyone who's listening to the channel you're listening to and the DJ on that channel in real time. So that's really cool, and it has all of those big names behind it, and it's focusing on metal. It's focusing on this heavy, aggressive music that we all love so much. So I think that is a beacon of hope in this really bleak landscape that we call modern music. And that is the end of this week's Week in Nerddom. Thank you guys so much for staying to the end. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. If you like these videos, hit the like button. If you don't like the videos, let me know that too. That's fine. The website is generallynerdy.net. Go over there and you can see everything I've done. There's some articles to read. There's links to all the other stuff that I do. The Patreon is patreon.com/generallynerdy. That is, again, where you can go support all of the stuff so that I can keep doing this and not have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. You can get on for just $1 a month is the lowest way to get on. $1 a month gets you early access to all of the videos, gets you a couple of patron-only videos as well. So head on over to the Patreon, support this, and I gotta remind you guys, always remember, that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here. Oof. Canon.